Ooh, there we go. Gotta unmute myself. Hello, welcome back, everyone. So, I told you I'd be back later on tonight. I was gonna see Gladiator 2, and I'd give you my thoughts right out of the gate, my reaction, any comments on it. And, yeah, overall, I mean, just let's start out this. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. It's an entertaining movie. It's, uh, it's epic. It's big. It's loud. There's a lot going on, and a lot of the times there's a lot to kind of keep track. There's a lot of great characters. But overall, it's a really good movie. I think Ridley Scott, someone who I've been kind of critical of over the last year, maybe year and a half, ever since he did Napoleon. I really didn't like Napoleon. He's been hit and miss, but I mean, the guy's 86 years old, right? Legendary director, really can't take anything away from him. And I think he put a lot of effort, a lot of work into this one, and tried to come up with something that was going to be satisfactory to everybody who saw Gladiator. What was it like? Man, I'm old. What was it, like 24 years ago, 25 years ago? I think, didn't it win like didn't Russell Crowe and the original Gladiator win best Oscar, best picture for like the year 2000? I'm old. I wasn't even married then. I wasn't even a dad. Wow, I'm old. Anyways, so Gladiator 2, I guess it's a Gladiator for a new age, a new generation, which is great. I think these type of stories, these type of epic films are never going to go out of style. And I do have some critiques. We're going to get to some critiques. It's not a perfect film by any means, but it's a really fun, good film to go and watch. It's long. I'll tell you that right off the bat. And I don't know if this is a critique or not, because some people don't like long movies. I don't like sitting in theaters for a long time. But our screening started at 4:05 p.m. Now, in Mexico, it's kind of weird. It's 4:05 p.m. it starts. That means that's when they're going to start the commercials and the trailers, and so you're there. We didn't get out of the theater until about 7 p.m. So it's a long movie. It's a long haul. You're in there for a little bit. That doesn't bother me. If the movie's good, who cares how long it is, right? It didn't need an intermission or anything like that. It kept going. It was never a point in the film where you're like, oh man, this is slowed down. This is tiring. It never got to that point. It just kept a really good pace throughout the whole thing. Never felt bored with it. There isn't really a character or a scene. My wife asked me, we always ask each other, what was was there something you didn't like? A couple of little nitpicky things, but there wasn't like a scene or a sequence where I said, man, that didn't fit, or it didn't work, or it just kept a really good entertaining pace throughout, and it kept you moving along with the story. And I'm going to try and keep it spoiler free for the first few minutes, and I'll tell you when I'm going to get into spoiler territory. If I do, but I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I think it comes out tomorrow or next week or whenever maybe it's next week for the United States. But again, fun movie and really entertaining, and a lot of things done really well. And let's start out with just the technical stuff. I think it's, we always think it's a given when we see a Hollywood movie, especially one that's this big in scope and size, that, the costuming is going to be great. The setting and all that, the set pieces, the design, all of that stuff, the accuracy of like the weapons and things like that, and the type of vehicles they might use in that certain time period, or just the things that they would do normally, normal Roman behavior for that time period. They obviously did the homework because it looked very authentic. And this is, I'm someone who's actually been to the city of Rome. I've seen the ruins. I've seen the temples, and I've been inside the Colosseum. And yeah, I think they did a really good job, a really great job, actually, at reproducing that. Now, some of the CGI, some of it's, a lot of it's CGI, of course, because stuff doesn't exist. But they took what they knew and designed. But it looked epic. It looked epic, right? So, and that's the first thing you're thinking to yourself. All right, Gladiator 2, this is going to be an epic film. Does it look epic? It looks epic. It sounds epic. And the music, special effects sounds, things like that, it sounds epic. And I thought that was really impressive. We didn't see it in IMAX. I don't know if it's going to be out in IMAX. I'm sure it probably is going to be out in IMAX. But it sounded epic. So it looks epic. It sounded epic. So overall, I would say, yeah, this is a really, really good film. And I keep not using the word great because this is a sequel, right? And let me get my here we go, my coffee. Always like my coffee. I shouldn't drink this too late at night. but I do because I'm old and I get tired. So it's a really good film. It's not a great film. Why is it not a great film? All right, this is where I try to explain this to you. It's a sequel, right? So it's going to compare itself to, you're going to compare it to the epic greatness of the original. And here's what it doesn't have, right? People are like, oh, comparing. Here's what Gladiator 2 does not have that Gladiator 1 does. A real strong emotional depth. What do I mean by that? If you know the original Gladiator, Russell Crowe's character, Maximus, he goes through horrible, his character is set up so well in the beginning that his downfall, the tragedy that he has to go through, what he has to go through, the losses he has to go through, they're just gut-wrenching. They're hard to watch. I mean, it's gut-wrenching. And here you don't get the similar setup. You get similar circumstances, right? But it's hard to feel anything if the setup is only 2 minutes long in the beginning of the film, right? It's hard to have that emotional attachment to something when it hasn't been given the time to really grow inside the audience's mind. So it follows the blueprint of Gladiator. Gladiator 2 follows the blueprint, but it doesn't hit that same emotional depth or chord that the original does. I hope that kind of makes sense. Does that make it a bad film? Absolutely not. You understand the motivations. You understand what's going on. You understand why things are happening. And things are, explained really well from there on in, but they miss that initial hook, right? And once you miss that initial hook in that first 2 to 5 minutes, it's hard to kind of go back and get that again because you're already off and running to the races, right? And that's just the nature of movies. So it's a really, really good film. Just not a great film, right? So absolutely you should go and see it in a theater. It's meant to be seen in a theater. For those of you that are like, I just wait until streaming. I don't care. If you got an 85-inch television, you're still not going, with the sound bar or sound, you're still not going to get the experience that you would in a theater like we just had a couple hours ago. Again, looks great, sounds great, it's epic, can't recommend it enough. I know it's coming out probably the same week. I think in the United States it comes out the same week as Wicked or Wiccan or Wicked, whatever, the Wizard of Oz one, the musical. And there's probably going to be some back and forth over which one to see. I haven't seen Wicked. I'm sure it's going to have an audience as well. But I would definitely see Gladiator 2 again. Like I said, it was just one of those things where you don't see a lot of that on screen, big screen. I mean, it's those type of productions. But anyways, so that's my overall feeling about the film. Is definitely glad I spent the money to go see it. Definitely glad I saw it in a theater. I think you'll be happy with it if you go and see Gladiator 2. If you're a fan of Gladiator, the original Gladiator, the best way I can describe this is like it's like an extended epilogue of the original film. And it's done really, really well if you look at it like that. It's an extended epilogue. You get some characters that come back, one or two characters that come back, and really kind of it does tie in. They do their best to tie it in and connect the dots to the original film. And again, I know that might be difficult because here, let me fix this. I think that's all right. I think I had to fix my mic. Sorry, everybody. I think they do a great job of connecting those dots, of making you feel like, okay, this is definitely a continuation, a part of that overall world and universe that Ridley Scott first built quarter a century ago. So that felt good. That felt good. It didn't feel like it felt respectful. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. It felt really, really respectful to the work that Scott and Russell Crowe did all those years ago, and Joaquin Phoenix and Joaquin Phoenix all those years ago that they did. So definitely that was great. So let's get into some more of the specifics. You all know I've said this before. Denzel Washington, incredible actor, proves it in this one. Absolutely fabulous acting in this one. He pulls off his role. It's just great. He pulls off his role. Just every time he's on screen, he nails it. So here we go. We'll talk about this, but there he is. He is a master. It almost seems effortless when you're watching him. Like he's not really. You're like, wow, he's not even trying. But he's just so good at what he does. He's a master of his craft. I think when you get to that point where you're such a master at your craft, like he is, and you watch him perform a role, you're like, okay. It's almost like you don't appreciate everything he does. I mean, the way he moved, the way he moved on screen. You could tell he put a lot of thought of how he moved his cloak, how he sat down, how he moved his hands, facial expressions, how he decided when and how to lean in. Let me go back to here. There we go. How he decided to lean in when he needed to say something or lean out. Just everything about his performance was great. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I'm not an expert at predicting the Oscars or who's going to be nominated. I would definitely think he gets nominated for this. It's that good of a role, and it's Denzel, and I think he's got a lot of goodwill, and I think people are going to look at it and go, well, and he's already said he's only got 2 or 3 films left before he retires after this. So definitely one of my 2 favorite characters. The other one, who plays General Acacius, Pedro Pascal. Now, he's a decent actor. At least I always say, Mandalorian, things like that. I've seen him in. But he really showed something different in this film. He really got into some of the nuances of acting that you look for that make a great. And I always use Heath Ledger as the Joker as an example, right? Heath Ledger didn't just come out and say the lines. It's his little ticks, his facial ticks, the way he moves his tongue, the way he smacks his lip, his hand movements, every little piece of it's thought about. And you can tell that Pedro Pascal had a similar line of thinking, that everything he did on screen, every movement, the way he stood, the way he looked, the way he turned his head, everything had purpose. Everything had meaning. Nothing was wasted. And he was very understated in how he performed. He wasn't over the top. He really played a character that was the most. I'll say this: Denzel Washington may have had the best performance and the most memorable character throughout the whole film. Pedro Pascal had the most intriguing character, the one that you really wanted to know more about, the one you wanted to spend more time with, the one you wanted to figure out, like, okay, what's behind a lot of some of these things. Because, he is just he's a supporting actor. It's a supporting role, so he's not going to be the main character. So you're not going to get him all the time everywhere, right? But he really pulled off a great role. He really pulled out a great performance. And again, is this something that he should be, given some consideration for some awards? Yeah, I call it like I see it. I thought it was one of the better performances. I think his and Denzel's performances in this film were 2 of the better performances I've seen all year long in all film. I truly mean that. It was really, really, really well done. So, take that for what it's worth. Grain of salt, a little sugar on top, whatever. But they definitely, they held your attention. When they're on screen, they hold your attention. That's just really good performances. Connie Nielsen, I've always known that she can pull off a role here and there. She is the emotional anchor. Without Connie Nielsen in this film, there is no real emotional anchor. She manages, like I said in the beginning, you missed that first emotional hook to kind of get you make a good film great. She gives you an emotional hook later on that maintains, this could have been just a popcorn flick with great action sequences and battles and blood and all that stuff, right? It could have been just one of those and been happy to have it as one of those, no problem. It certainly has those sequences. But Connie Nielsen's performance gives you that emotional hook, and she does it very well. And she's not overbearing with it. It's very, again, measured. She's very measured. She's high energy or high emotion or not. She's stoic when she needs to be stoic, which we all know is a trait of the Romans and the Greeks back in that time. And she abandons that stoicism when she needs to, when the scene really calls for it. And so she really helps out that film. She's the unsung hero. We always have like the sixth man in the NBA, right? Who's the sixth man that, the player no one really thinks about that really actually contributes so much to make success. She's that member of the cast of this film. She, like I said, without her, you lose 80%, 70% of the emotional attachment to the characters, and she keeps you in there grounded. She keeps you on a straight line with knowing exactly where you should be as an audience and where your loyalty should be and where your emotions should be, where your heart should be. And so great job to her. I am going to whiff at the guy's name, and I'm going to look it up now because I know his last name is Mescal. I can't remember his first name for the life of me. That's what happens when you just see a movie right now. So the Gladiator, the actual Gladiator, let's see here. Let's type it into the old iPad. Paul Mescal. All right. So he made some, and I'm not sure if it was his choice or somebody else's choice, right? And it could have been his choice, but you can't follow up Russell Crowe's performance in the original Gladiator by trying to mimic it. You just can't do it because there's only one Russell Crowe. All right. There's always ever going to be one Russell Crowe. So Paul Mescal made some very smart choices, some very new, very bold choices. I think if they fell flat, they would have really ruined the film, but they didn't fall flat. They actually worked. Is that when you watch the original Gladiator, Russell Crowe he's punk rock, man. He's rock and roll. He's energy. He's just rage spewing out from him, rage and strength and whatnot. Paul Mescal's character is not that. You look at him, it's like he doesn't have the size of the bulk, right? You look at him like this guy. He's got again, that word understated. And I love using that because I think when you use the word understated, it means that there's a lot of effort and thought put into different performances. He's simmering. He's not he's not a bonfire. He's a simmering flame that when it needs to be, a little bit of grease drops into it and it flames up and boom, burns you, right? And there, he knows how to just keep a level, even keel. And then when he needs to just jack it up, he jacks it up and it brings it right back down. It's just it's like a little bit of spice when you need it, right? So I think bravo to him. He had that's a hard role to step into. I mean, you got to take, granted, you got Ridley Scott, you got all these other great actors around you to help you out, to help carry a lot of scenes, but he didn't need it. He didn't need it at all. Great performance. But he's overshadowed. But his Paul Mescal, he's overshadowed by, Pedro Pascal. He's overshadowed by Denzel Washington just because they are so more seasoned and on another level that his good performance is just overshadowed. But he absolutely does. I think he shows a different type of character than what you're expecting. And I think that's a good thing because one, if he tried to be Russell Crowe, it would look like they're just doing cosplay and it would look like they're just trying to really mimic the success of the previous one instead of trying to do something that has a little originality and creativity to it. So definitely, like I said, I appreciate the choices that he made. There's a couple of moments I will tell you they don't work, right? They don't work just because I guess stoicism is not really a thing that's really a well-known thing, in our society, that lack of emotion, that one. But but they're few and far between. 98% of his performance works the way he's doing it, the way he does it, and it honors. Again, it goes back. This film respects and honors the original film. It respects and honors the original story. It respects and honors the original work done on that original film, which holds such a high place in cinematic history. Again, this is not the great film that Gladiator is. This is a really, really, really good film. And it's worthy. It's absolutely worthy. Now, again, the other part of this film is you go into it, and like I said, it's epic. Opening scene, the battles are just like, okay, we're going big. I mean, Ridley Scott's going big with some of these battles and some of these scenes. The Gladiator fights, the Colosseum, amazing to see some of that stuff. The way in which they reproduced a lot of that, and my wife leaned over to me at one point during the film. She goes, "Did they really do that in the Colosseum?" And this is like a little spoiler, right? And if you're a history buff, you already know this. But the Colosseum in Rome, it wasn't just, they put people or animals and whatnot on the dirt and they'd all fight it out. Sometimes they would flood the thing. They would fill it with water, like up until the top where the first row of seats were, or just maybe a little bit below. And they would have ships inside, and they'd have a naval battle, gladiator naval battle. And that's what they really did back in the times of the Romans and in the Roman Empire. And Ridley Scott decided, he's like, I'm going to pull that off. And he pulled it off. And it was just cool. It's just cool. It just goes to show you that they know the history. Is the history 100% accurate? No. There's some things in there, I'm not going to spoil. I'm going to be like, all right, that didn't happen. That's not real. And Ridley Scott's already stated before that he doesn't really care to have the historical accuracy trump the idea of telling a great story. Fair enough. I'm a fan of Braveheart. I can't complain about historical accuracy too much. I know with Napoleon I complained about it because Napoleon never fired cannons at the pyramids. There's a line I cross. I won't cross, but here there's a few things here and there that you're like, okay, that didn't happen. If you know, you know. If you don't, it's not going to bother you, so whatever. But the first battle, epic, just epic, all out. The gladiator battles, very cool. Very, very cool. The one that you see in the trailer with the rhino is probably my favorite next to the naval battle. That was so well done, so well choreographed, and it sounded great. Here's the thing, you think about they did their work on the sound design and getting the idea of the crowd, how that would sound, open air, this natural amphitheater that they built, natural acoustics off of the stone and the quartz or whatever they carved this, whatever they carved the blocks out of to build the Colosseum. The way the emperors speak and project their voice, the way the announcer, I'm going to call him the announcer, the master of ceremonies projects. They got all of that right because it would echo just the right way. And again, I've been in the Colosseum, so I know how it echoes. And they got it right. And it just added to the tension. It added to the anxiety. It added to the conflict that you were watching in front of you. And there's a lot of battles. There's a lot of fights, a lot of battles, really bloody. Really bloody. We're talking, it's almost Deadpool Wolverine bloody, if not, really bloody. Which amazed me because about 30 minutes in, I started hearing a baby cry or a child cry. Like a 3-year-old or 4-year-old. And my wife says, "What do you hear?" I said, "Yeah." And in front of us, there was a young couple with a 4-year-old girl. And I don't think she wanted to be in Gladiator 2. And so I was just looking, I'm like, wow. All right. You have a 4-year-old girl watching grown men do horrible, horrible things to each other right now. And good luck with the nightmares tonight or the nightmares this week. But c'est la vie. I raised my kids the way I want to raise my kids. You raise your kids the way you want to raise kids. I found it. It really blew my mind. that somebody had a 4-year-old girl in there. But again, overall, the epic battle scenes, great battle scenes. Really, really well done. Loved it. Loved the way they did the archery, the bow and arrows, the way they used those in combat, the way the camera cinematography. It's Ridley Scott. You're going to get great direction and you're going to get great cinematography when he cares about the film 110%. Like you can tell he cared about this film. Like he wanted this one right. He wanted to do this one. This one was been on his, I think this one's probably been on his mind for a little while to get this one done and do it right. And he did it right. So great cinematography. What else can I say about this? What else? Well, the CGI. Okay. Here's where I want to nitpick a little bit. Some of the CGI is just noticeably not good. There's a scene where, and again, I hope, spoiler warning, I'm not going to give anything away too much. There's a scene where the gladiators are all fighting a bunch of wild baboons or monkeys or something. Some sort of primate with large teeth and a surly disposition. There's a whole herd of them, or I don't know, pack of them. They look so fake. And when I say so fake, I'm talking, if you remember the Flash movie with the babies and the microwave and all that in the beginning, how fake they look. These look really fake. Granted, I get it. They have to be fake. You ain't fighting real monkeys. Okay. But it didn't, that kind of took me out a little bit of that battle. The only thing actually what kept me into that battle was the work of Paul Mescal and his physicality. The physical work they all do, that kept me in that. A couple of the overhead shots of Rome, because they're trying to show the expanse of the city and how grand it was. Some of the backdrops, they could have been a little bit better. They could have been better. There was noticeable. I'm like, oh, that's not finished, or oh, that wasn't checked, or someone didn't look at that and go change that. Again, it's the big screen, so you're going to notice these flaws a little bit more. Does it ruin the film? Did it take me out of the film? No. It's just like, I made a mental note, like, oh, okay. All right. But I'm not there for CGI. Again, I always tell you, when I go see a movie and I want to review a movie with you, I'm going to tell you, this is what I'm not looking for CGI. I'm looking for great performances. I'm looking for epic action. I'm looking for an epic story. I'm looking for overall, how does it connect with the previous story, the previous film? Direction, cinematography, all that. The very artistic thing. Like the other day, I did a review of Red 1. Or today I did a review of Red 1. I'm not looking for that kind of stuff in Red 1. I'm looking for fun. I'm looking for laughs. I'm looking for cheer and joy and good-natured heartedness and walking out of the theater thinking it's Christmas, right? You can't judge you have to judge each film on the merits of what it's trying to do and what it's trying to be. And this film is trying to be epic. It's trying to tell a great story. It's trying to tell you, give you a piece of history, give you a slice in time, and it's trying to be entertaining as hell. And it really does that. It really, really does that. Again, the only thing missing that's critical, the only thing critical, and again, maybe it's just me. You could probably leave in the comment section and say, hey, you know what? I felt differently, but it's that emotional hook in the beginning compared to the emotional hook that grabs you. Like I said, when I watched Gladiator, there were times where I just wanted to just double over, gut wrenching. Like that is just, you just felt terrible for the guy and what he was going through. Here, you were like, that sucks. Okay, well, we know where it's going, so let's get there. Let's go. Let's see some. And they get there. And it's fine. They get there. But you don't, like I said, it's not that same impact. It's not the same impact. All right? But that's my review of Gladiator 2. Definitely worth the price of admission, like I said. I think, again, you got to be prepared. It's a long movie. But Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal, Paul Mescal, Connie Nielsen, the guys who play the emperors, whacked out of their minds. Great unhinged performances, over the top, but they need to be over the top. Everybody, there wasn't a bad performance. But anyways, You're not going to be disappointed in this film. You're going to have fun watching this film if it's the type of. If you don't like blood and guts and gladiator stuff, then don't go. Then this is not going to. It's not going to be your film, right? If you don't like epic tales, it's not going to be your film, right? But I think this film's going to do well. I don't know what it's tracking. I've seen different things, whether it's tracking well at the box office, not tracking well at the box office for the United States. Again, here in Mexico, it's friggin' sold out. Every theater was sold out for the rest of the night from 4 o'clock on until it closes. And I suspect that's the way it's going to be for the rest of the weekend for both Red 1 and Gladiator 2. But again, so I think this film's going to have a really good international opening to kick it off until we get to the United States. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think if you've been waiting to see this film, I know people were really disappointed in the first trailer that used hip-hop music. Let it go. There's no hip-hop music in this thing. Let it go. They fixed that. They said, okay, that's not the droids we're looking for. But again, couldn't recommend this film more. It's definitely top 10 for the year. I'm not sure if it's top 5, but definitely top 10. Definitely top 10. It might actually be top 5. I'm thinking back to all the movies I've seen this year, all the movies I've reviewed for you guys this year, both in theater, on Netflix, and all. This might be top 5. I really, like I said, really, really enjoyed it. But like I said, you got to see it in the theater. I think definitely something you got to see in the theater, because I think if you see it at home on streaming, it'll be like, oh, I wish I saw this in the theater, because it's just so big in scope. Anyways, that's what I got for you. That is my review of Gladiator 2. Hopefully I kept it as spoiler-free as possible. Hope I didn't spoil anything for you. It's again another late night with the Gringo. I'm going to have a set schedule sooner or later. Hopefully I'm going to work on that this week and this weekend. So I'll get these live streams and you'll be able to see my ugly mug at least twice a week. I think twice a week. But with that, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for checking in. If you like this video, please remember to like, share, subscribe, comment. Love to hear your comments. With that, from somewhere south of the border, I'm still your reluctant Gringo. Salud, and a huevo.